Howdy y'all! In case it's not obvious by now, I like my retro games, and if you clicked on this video, you probably do too. And one of my favorite retro systems is the Nintendo 64. I have a lot of great memories playing with it at my grandma's house while growing up. I love its library of games, and it has a great reset button. I really have no doubt that this funky little guy will worm its way back on my channel again in the future. But that kinda creates a problem for me, for you see, I don't have a good way to record footage off of it. With my NES and SNES games, I use these inexpensive clone consoles to record high-def gameplay footage. And with the NES in particular, I happen to own the NES Classic Edition, off of which I'm able to record even higher quality footage of the 30 games included in the mini console. So it's perfectly easy for me to record whatever games I need off of these systems here. With the Nintendo 64, however, well, in the words of Run DMC, it's a fair bit more challenging. I have the original hardware with the original AV cables, which look great connected to a CRT television, but fairly horrendous when directly hooked up to a capture card. There are no Nintendo 64 clone consoles out yet. Yes, I'm aware of the analog one that's set to release later this summer, that is if it doesn't get pushed back again. And look, analog undoubtedly makes some of the best aftermarket consoles out there, but the fact of the matter is, I am not paying $250 for a revamped version of a system that I already own. So with that out of the question, and sticking with the original hardware, my next best move would be to change the old AV cables out for something better, and that's where the big bucks start rolling in. It doesn't take long at all to find some pretty expensive HD cables out there for the Nintendo 64, or for other retro systems just in general. And look, I've heard nothing but good things about a lot of these adapters, especially the Super 64 from Eon, but look, it really just boils down to the fact that I am not willing to spend $150 on an upscaler, when I only spent $80 on my Nintendo 64 itself. Maybe in the future if my channel ever takes off, but not right now. So I decided to take a look at some of the budgetary options. There are a lot of really cheap adapters on the market that I am 100% convinced are nothing more than a straight AV to HDMI converter. So I avoided them like the plague. Seriously, if you're even considering buying one of these, don't. Just buy a dedicated AV to HDMI converter instead. The gameplay won't look good, but it'll get the job done, and you can use it for different things other than just Nintendo consoles. But eventually, after some searching, I finally found the topic of today's video. The 3-in-1 720p HDTV cable HD Pro Edition with 4 visual modes, no additional power supply from GameCube, Nintendo 64, Super NES, Hyperkin. An upscaler that, like the listing implies, works for the SNES, the GameCube, and most importantly for us here, the Nintendo 64. Now, my eyes were drawn to this because I've had really good experience with Hyperkin in the past, namely with their HD cable for the Wii. I don't like playing the Wii on a CRT, just a personal thing for me. I grew up playing the Wii on a flat plasma screen, so it just doesn't feel right on a CRT screen, and the AV cables leave a lot to be desired when they're hooked up to my 4K television. Thankfully though, I happened upon these cables at a video game store one day and decided to give them a whirl. I opened up the box, was greeted with this cute little message that forced me to realize that the Wii is now considered a retro console, so I had a quick cry in the corner as the game booted up, and my tears were blown away by what I saw. There's really nothing for me to say, the footage speaks for itself. These cables give such an undeniable boost in quality that I'll probably never use my old AV ones again. Oh, I'm not gonna throw them away though. These 3 little contacts here have given me countless hours of entertainment growing up. I could never part with them. I spent around $15 for this in the store. Granted, there are a lot of other Wii to HD connectors out there for dirt cheap. I don't know if they work as good, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm more than happy with the price I paid for the Hyperkin cable. So with that in mind, I decided to purchase their upscaler for the Nintendo 64, snagging a set for about $45 on Amazon. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why are the Wii cables so cheap, and why are the 64 adapters the opposite of cheap? I don't know. I'd be lying if I said I fully understood what was going on here, but essentially with the Wii, that console is directly outputting a digital signal, making it very easy for upscalers to output it onto an HDTV. On the Nintendo 64, however, and other retro systems in general, it's outputting an analog signal, which is a bit trickier to work with, thus the upscalers are just inherently going to be more expensive. Now, that's an oversimplified overview from someone that doesn't even really understand it himself, so take that explanation with a nice tablespoon of salt. Yeah, it doesn't matter anyway, my package just arrived. Yeah, I took it out of its shipping container, I'm not doxing myself to you guys. You pull the converter out, stick it into the output of the console, and then plug an HDMI cord into the end of the Upscaler, and it just works. Admittedly, I was a little surprised to see that the converter itself didn't need a power source. I guess the micro USB port on the side is just for show. Man, whatever, the fact that it works off the power from the Nintendo 64 alone is a plus right off the bat. One less wire I gotta worry about. But who really cares if it works if it doesn't work well, so let's put this thing to the test. I'll be using these 3 games today: Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, and Star Fox 64. I'll be comparing how they look directly recorded off the original AV cables to see how well this converter converts. Alrighty, this is what Mario looks like on the standard AV cables, and this is what he looks like on the Hyperkin. Wow, I got scammed. Okay, being serious, the Hyperkin cable actually comes with 4 different viewing modes. One sending a direct AV signal to your TV, and the other sending a direct SV signal, with the other 2 modes just softening the images of both outputs. To put it simply, AV is a composite signal, while SV is a component signal, which is higher quality because of reasons I don't want to get into. But before we get into all of that, a word from the sponsor of today's video. The FCC. I am legally required to state that I am not sponsored by Hyperkin. Okay, now with that out of the way, back to the video. So let's use the component signal instead, and yep, that looks a lot better and brighter already. Okay, now that we got this hooked up correctly, cue the montage!
Dear Mario, please come to the castle. I have baked a cake for you. Yours truly, Princess Toadstool. Peach.
Already, probably the biggest improvement across the board was the improved brightness and saturation in all games. One of the major issues with using the AV cables on an HD screen is that all of the colors get dulled out and murky. And I'm happy to see that this just isn't the case with the Upscaler. The games look a lot closer to how they perform on a CRT television. It's able to retain their original feel and charm far better than direct capture of composite cables ever could. Another notable improvement was that the UI UI was sharper across the board as well, with text especially coming out crystal clear. Seriously, comparing this to the original AV footage, it's night and day. One area the Hyperkin really shined was with the dark places. Look at Ganon's castle for instance. Viewed through the AV cables, this area is honestly so dark that it's hard to see what you're doing. While through the Hyperkin, everything is perfectly visible while still retaining the original gloomy feel of the place. Of course, that's just another benefit of the improved brightness. There's just so much more detail that you're able to see in these games thanks to the Upscaler. Granted though, there were a few instances where the games were a bit too saturated. In Super Mario 64 especially, all of the detail on the grass gets completely washed out, making the ground look untextured. Granted though, I was able to adjust the settings on my TV to make this look a little better, but still, it wasn't perfect. Another problem I noticed is that ghosting that was present in the AV footage was also present in the SV footage. To be fair though, this is more of a nitpick. I imagine this is one of those things that the other upscalers would fix. But again, no. The Hyperkin 3-in-1 HDTV cable certainly isn't perfect, but it is much better than hooking the AV cable straight up to your high-def TV. I certainly have no doubt that something like the Eon 64 is better, but at a whole $100 less, I find this little guy to be more than acceptable. So yeah, if you're just itching to play your Nintendo 64 on your modern television, give this upscaler a whirl. As for me, I'm only gonna use it for when I gotta record footage. Hey, this is fine and all, don't get me wrong, but playing retro games on an old CRT will always be better in my book. Oh hey, I forgot to mention, there's this little switch on the side of the upscaler. I wonder what it... Thank y'all for watching all the way to the end, and until next time, goodbye y'all.